And once upon a time, I have asked one question. In your mobile phone, you are using tempered glass, and they are also giving some numbers 6D, 7, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Likewise, they are giving the numbers. So I asked you to figure out the answer for that, but none of them has replied. Yesterday also I given some question. I strongly believe that no one will give the answer. Nothing to worry, but the same questions will be asked in the exam. That time you may need internet. Whether right or wrong, you will write. I will give the marks depend on your performance. Okay. So Brinial harness, Vicar Rockwell, that I think you have performed in your lab. So Brinial harness, we have the load setup. Okay, and we have one small table which can go rise and down. On the table only you have to put the samples. Then we have a small ball which is in carbide tool. Okay, because we need a hard material so that ball will not be damaged or deformed if you are engaging your ball with aluminum brass and some other materials. Okay, so by placing the ball for a certain time with respect to the load. Okay, for soft material 500 kg you can use, some casting and other things you can use 1500, but more hard steel, hard material like iron steel, you may go for 3000 kg. Okay, it's depend upon the material, and the dwell time is nothing but how long we have to keep the load for certain time. Okay, if you are keeping the load for so long time, it will penetrate much more and the diameter may be changed, because after making the indentation you have to measure the diameter by using the eyepiece or maybe macroscopic. Okay, then you have to check what is the diameter, then slowly we have to put it in the formula and you will get the hardness. Okay, this is a small idea. So D is nothing but the diameter of the ball, F is nothing but the applied load, and D1 is nothing but the diameter of indent. So after reaching the surface of the product, how long it was dwell. Okay, how much was penetrated, that's a D1 new diameter. So just put it in the formula, force by D bracket D minus root of D square minus D1 square, and you will get the Brinial harness number. Okay, and there are some standard harness numbers are available, Brinial harness numbers are available, some materials, and if you are measuring the harness for your material, just check it whether it's coming or not. That's also one of the exercise. Okay, right. So we have to write like this only, 75 HB den slash 500 slash 30. That means 75 is the harness number, there is no doubt. 10 is the diameter of the indenter and 500 is the load you applied. Okay, and 330 means how long you have applied, 30 seconds you have applied. Okay, it's depend upon the material. And it's a standard procedure how you going to write the harness number. So if it's best example, if you are writing the tensile load or other things, you will put MPa, megapascal, right? So similarly, you have to write like this for micro harness, not micro harness, Brinial harness number. So measurement, sometimes if you don't have any analog devices, you can directly engage a specimen in the computer so that you will get a computerized image. From that you can measure the diameter accurately. Okay. So whether Brinial harness number is working in our college? Strength material lab, did you made or did you conducted or not? Strength
Yes, sir.
lab. So what are the harness number test you have made?
Sir, it was conducted last year, so we forgot.
Oh, last year you forgot. Okay, okay. So very nice answer. So if you are unable to measure the diameter, you can make the rectangular boxes and you can measure the side of the boxes, which will give the diameter. That option also available in the optical microscope. You check feasibilities and take it out. Okay. So why harness numbers are measured? Where we measuring and what is the significant outcomes and implementation of Brinial harness numbers are here in the example as shown here, and it is in the induction hardened sample. It's a gear tooth most probably. Okay, so in the gear tooth we need a hard surface in the outer layer, not inside layer. Okay, because gears are rotating parts most probably, so rotating parts may be generate the vibrations, like in automobile suddenly we going to engage some gears with another one, so that time heavy vibrations will take place. Assume that the here is, you told that if it is so hard, it is hard means higher the wear resistance, so that's okay. But what about the low transmission capacity? higher the hardness means higher the brittle. So if vibrations or shock loads are given, it became number of pieces. Okay, they cannot withstand in the applied load or shocks. So for that we need a soft core, but outside should be rigid, brittle. So for the purpose only we are going to take this surface level heat treatment. Okay, first image you can see it was in outer layer only heating, induction heating maybe. Okay, second one also the heated portions were placed for cooling, and the third one is assembled view of the gear. Okay, as you can see outside is so brittle, so that without any losses, that means wear resistant, good wear resistant may be produced. Inside it will be soft, so sudden loads, vibrations, shock loads, anything is happen, they can easily transmit from one place to another place and they will not become crack, or there won't be any defects. Okay, for the mechanism only we are checking, and the micro harness, remember micro harness, we are going to check the harness at this surface level only. If you want to see the micro harness for a particular section, you have to extract the section from the component, then you have to measure the harness. Okay. So next one is the Rockwell harness. So in the Rockwell harness, there is two things we have to remember. Okay, we have major scale and minor scale. So in the minor scale, first we have to make, as like in the drilling operations, before we make the drill, we have to make a punch. After that only we have to pass the drill. Okay, similarly here also we have to apply the minor load. After that, at the same location, same pinpoint, we have to apply the major load. Okay, then we have to find out the eccentricity E, then we can put it in the formula and we will get it. Okay, and the ASTM standards is 785 for the plastic and electrical material, don't forget. And for metallic materials also we have ASTM standards, go and find it. Otherwise simply I will ask the ASTM standard based outcomes, and that time you may be in trouble. Okay, so we are using a diamond tip. Last time we are using the ball, but here we are using diamond tip. Its angle is 120°. Okay, that's it. So we have the scale R, L, M, E, K. So these are the scale we will see upcoming slides. What are the scales and other things? Okay, and here only you can see A, B, C. The divisions will be over here. One will be minor, another one will be major scale. Okay, as you can see, one will be in red color, another will be in black color. Outer scale, inner scale, minor scale. Basically, you can take no problem. Then depend upon the penetrated and the load capacity, you can take which scale you want. Okay, because the load applying capacity and other indenter or everything is based on the material you're going to test. Okay, we are not going to fix, the material is going to fix. Okay, you have to select the proper choice for the material, otherwise you will not get the exact harness number. Okay, so if you are using the scale A, it's HRA, harness of Rockwell A, D means HRD, C means HRC, likewise it will go. Okay, if you say scale 15N means HR 15N, that number also you can put it. Last time right, some numbering items, we have some numbering items and we have to do. Okay, so and the scale intended and their scales are given. Test force, the standard one. Okay, and the applications are shown over here. Maximum that is 150 for annealed steel and other things. Okay. The same little bit advanced version. So here also we can make computerized Rockwell harness machines where we can directly measure the harness after giving the indentation. Okay, first you give the major load, minor load and other things at the load conditions. Okay, only thing is we have to rise and we have to down the bed. Just place the sample, rise the bed, put the items in the control panels and slowly it will take. Now third one is the Vickers harness machines. Okay, in the Vickers harness machine, we are using diamond indenter. Okay, the load capacity may be 1 to 100 kg if they're saying, but in normally it will start from 50 kg up to 500 kg. We can apply the load. Dwell time maybe 10 seconds to 30 seconds. I have used, maybe if you want, you can increase more than that also. And this Vickers micro harness is specially used in industry purpose. The previously what we seen is the normal and which is used in the school, college level and normal purpose only, academic purpose we can use, but for research and the industry level, we have to use R&D level, we have to use Vickers harness machine only, which going to give a clear-cut relationship with the microstructural changes, grinds and new faces, etc. Because previously what we seen is macro level, not a micro level, but this weakness kindness is in micro level. Okay, so particularly if new grinds are produced or if new collaboration, new faces are produced, you can particularly put the indentation on the faces and you can check what is the hardness of the face. Okay, intermetallics are produced, you can put it. If you seen any segregation in the grind boundary, exactly grind boundary, you can put the load and you can check. Here two parameters are very important, that is load for applied load for the corresponding material and the dwell time. Because what we going to do means here we are going to measure the diameter diagonal. Okay, diamond indenter will be like this only, like a pyramid shape. So diagonally we have to check D1 and D2, and then we have to put the D1 and D2 in the computer or the pre-defined program. It will give the hardness. Okay, next slide you will see the effect of diagonal reading in the micro hardness. Okay. So this is the Vickers harness micro harness machine. We have a table and we have two XYZ movement screwers. Okay, load applying this one, power black, working platform. Hand wheel is for changing the load. Okay, another hand wheel is for rising and lowering the bed. Okay, so the same machines, if it is possible, you can change the diamond indenter. Sometimes you can use Vickers, another one may be Noop. Okay, digital screens are available. So after taking the micro harness, you can measure how much diagonally D1, D2, you can measure it from the optical microscope lens, which is already attached with this one. Okay, so after that you have to enter the D1, D2 values in the controlling working panel. Then it will give the micro hardness value on the display. Directly you can measure it. Okay, and this is how it's going to first. In the right side, if you see F is available, so the diamond indenter is 136 degree, that going to penetrate or in the surface. Then we going to measure D1, D2 by using the optical microscope. Then we are going to take what is the D1, D2 values, and we're going to apply. So let us take one small case study. Here we have making one dissimilar metal joint. One is in aluminum, another one is in steel. Okay, so in the steel we are taking the interface. Okay, then we are going to check. So first we what they taken 100, 200, 300, because for same material you know that load carrying capacity and the dwell time, but for new material we have to identify. So what the researcher they did, they have taken 200, 300 grams of load, dwell time of 10, 20, 30 seconds. So they have made nearly 9 trials. Okay, and the specimen indentation loads 10, 20 grams and 30 seconds are shown over here, and you can see the 9 indenters. So depend upon the time it was changing. So for a particular material, you have to go with standard reference and you have to see. And the DOI of the journal is shown over here. If you want, you can go there and you can check. As you can see, the interface of aluminum and galvanized iron. Okay, so shown over here. In the aluminum, the indenter was somewhat big because it is soft material. For a particular time, it can penetrate more. So the diameter of the indenter is so much big diagonal. Okay, but galvanized iron is little bit brittle in the aluminum, so the indenter is unable to penetrate much more. The size of the indenter is very small, but in the interface new intermetallics are produced. Due to that, they are unable to penetrate much more. They are so heavy. Okay, more hardness, so they are unable to penetrate. So the indenter is very smaller in shape. So that they're having 940 HV. If you see the aluminum, it's 94 HV, nearly 10 times higher than the base metal. So if this is very much important, even though you know the material, you should select the proper dwell time and the load. See, so if the penetration is not perfectly, so it will become very smaller amounts. You can easily tell that the hardness is high, but the true is not, because you are not referring the ASTM standards. Okay, so whenever you are going to check the load, check the ASTM standards for that material. What is the dwell time? What is the load carrying capacity, etc. Then you go ahead. Otherwise, you will get a wrong details. Okay, another one is a Noop harness. It's nothing but a modification of the Vickers harness. Here also we have used a special type of diamond indenter, but it was something different than the Vickers harness. You can see the indenter, it was somewhat lean compared to previous one. Previous one it looks like a pyramid shape, but it's not like a pyramid shape, somewhat different shapes, right? Okay, so we are having that same procedure for Noop harness also. Okay, same material, same type you can take. Okay, this is a Vickers, Brugworth and Noob. How the tools are going to be happen in the front view as well as the indentations of top view. Okay. So shore harness. Shore harness is used for the soft materials. Okay, and it's nothing but sometimes you can see the rubber and other things when you are producing to check that roughness. We are having this harness tester. Okay. So we have the ASTM standard D2240, okay, or ISO, you can take it, no problem. So 0 for complete penetration, 100 for the no penetration. That means here is somewhat nearly 75% is taken. Okay, so nothing but, so this is very important. When you going for next slide, you will identify the importance. Okay, so most of the time we are using jelly, okay, candy and other things. It should be in proper way, and the rubbers, the tires, shoe materials, okay, shopping cart wheels, and how to identify that harness. We cannot engage your specimen with Brunel, Rockwell, micro harness like that, Vickers and Noob. We need some other skill, right? So we are using this material, this procedure to check it out. Okay, 0 mean very soft, 10 also soft, and maximum 80, 100 means hard. So we are using the scales to check whether the material is in plastic limit or elastic limit or harder. Okay, it's having some more applications. So depending upon the materials on the surface, you can change the indenter, flat, spiral, hemispherical, cone, etc. So Mohs harness. Okay, this is the number. You can see the diameter 10, talc is 1, fluoride is 4, and based on this number only, that what is it called, that mobile mobile we are using hard the tempered class. Okay, those things are classified with respect to these numbers only. So suppose if you have the number of 8 means, so if the your tempered class is produced by number 8, okay, 8D or 8 something. So the number 765, what are the materials coming under 765 up to 1 cannot damage your tempered class. Okay, so the higher the number, higher the security. That's what they're telling. Previously it was 3, 4, 5, 6. Nowadays it is going 11, 12 also going. That means more the wear resistant. The tempered glass may be resistant for more materials. Okay, and here also. So conversion. Sometimes this one is maybe called as a German scientist. I think this one or another one. Some German scientists also figured out some new micro harness method. It is not accepted by all over the world, but German scientists they're using. What they're using, you know that wear resistance is measured by the harness number. So they're using some particular material to wear out some part of another base metal. After that, they're checking. After some times, they're checking how much amount of material is removed. Okay, based on that only they are checking the Mohs harness. It is German harness machines or something they will call. Okay. So conversion of one harness to another harness. Okay, these are some formulas. Go through it. And tensile test, you have engaged your specimens. Okay, so proportional or elastic limit is first. Then we have the plastic limit. Then ultimate strength. Then after that, still if you are giving the load, fracture will be take place. Okay, remember this will be the layout of tensile testing machines. Okay, specimen bottom side is standard one, it will not move anywhere, and top side portion only move up and down, rise and lower depending upon your sample. Then we can load it. Okay, so we may have different of grips with respect to different of specimen, flat specimen, round. Okay, some complicated shapes, whether you're going to check with biological samples like tissues or papers, single fibers, rubbers, etc. We have different grippers for different specimens. Okay, these are all the basic terminology you should know. Most probably you may know these things. Okay, so these are all the observations we can be taken from the tensile. Okay, so tensile test also you cannot simply engage your specimen as you seen in your laboratory. Okay, for laboratory purpose, academic level, they just simply putting the mild steel and they conducting the tensile test. But for actual level, you have to follow the ASTM standards, E804 or something. And this is the specimen, how it looks like. It looks like a dog bone shape. Yes, the specimen is always calling that as a dog bone shape tensile specimen, except composite material most of the all of the metallic materials are prepared by like this only, okay, samples. So in these ASTM standards, they will never give the values of what is the overall length, grip section, etc. They simply give thickness of the sample. With respect to thickness, they will have some small formula for overall length, this much into thickness, distance between the shoulder, this much between the distance. So no, not distance, thickness. Okay, so everything is based on the thickness. As you can see, different samples has been made. Okay, some micro denser specimen also available within 5 mm or 10 mm or up to 5 centimeter. Also, I have prepared some micro specimen, and some metallurgic guides, they came with 3 mm length. Within that also we have made. Okay, normal specimens also available. As you can see, dark bone shapes may be different, but we have to follow any one of the ASTM standards to make your samples. Okay, you have to clearly mention which ASTM standards you have followed and what is the thickness and what is the calculations. And if this much is thickness means what is the overall length, what is the shoulder length, and what is the grip length or gauge length, etc. Okay, not only for flat specimens, you can make the same thing for the cylindrical shaped items also. Okay. So some more specimens, as you can see. Okay, so Charpy and IZARD impact. If you are placing the specimen as like the letter I, that is IZARD. If you are putting the specimen in flat condition, that is called Charpy. So we are going to make the V notch 45 degree, I think. Then we have to release the dead weight. So how much energy is absorbed before the break or nearby the break will be indicated on the scale, and we have to take energy joule. Here output is energy in terms of energy, that is nothing but joule. So fatigue test. So we are going to give a cyclic load. It's not up to the fracture load, ultimate load. We are not going to reach within the ultimate load only. We are going to give a fluctuation of load, which is also very severe. So okay, we have a different types of giving the fluctuation load. So depending upon the load, it's going to break. The breakage may be the load may be given different sample types, but breakage may be some of the examples. Okay, how the fractures fatigue segment is prepared, and different fatigue loads can be applied as shown over here. Okay, so different machines. Okay, you have to give some force and you have to repeat it back slowly. So these are all the terminology which can be fully reversed. Means if you are giving one side 50 kg of load, means other side also 50 kg of load. Okay, a repeated load means just above the zero. Remember, just above the zero. We are going to start from some certain level and we're going to reach up to zero. Then we're going to reach the previous level. Okay, and some fluctuating load means there is no measurements. We can go up to, it's not going to touch zero. Above zero only is always going to happen. So the stress range, amplitude, mean. Okay, those things you can easily calculate it from this formula. So here are the stress cycles. Okay, remember it. So unlike tensile and other things, fatigue failure is always starting from the any one surface. Okay, assume that you have a thin wire in your hand and you're going to break it into two pieces. So the simple way is we will give a force on up and down, we can give it actually load. So it will start, crack will start from any one corner. Okay, then it will propagate and it will go. Right. So the fatigue propagations, first initiation of the fracture, then again if you are giving the load, it will crack will be propagate and fatigue propagation will take place. Then we going for catastrophic rupture. Okay, so after the breakage, if you see the specimen, it will be like this only, as shown in the first one is the yellow in color, zone 1 fracture origin, second is the red color, zone 2, and the final one is the fracture. As you can see this diagram, now you will get an information how it's going to happen. So initially the fracture is taking place. So a small crack will be taken as a surface. Okay, then negative cycle, when you are giving the load, it will not propagate. Okay, then again we are going to increase the load, positive load, so it crack will be more. Then again negative load, so there is no fracture. Again we are going to give another positive load, so fracture will be more. So likewise only fracture will take place in fatigue load. Okay, so type of fatigue: mechanical, creep, thermomechanical, and corrosion. If the fatigue specimen is going to test under corrosive environments, it is called corrosive fatigue. Okay, thermomechanical fatigue means some components like engine, cylinder, piston, best piston, creep fatigue also we are going to give some high temperatures and we're going to check the fatigue life. Okay, mechanical fatigue is always over here everywhere. Okay, fatigue will combine with frictional and sliding loads, and which is in the boiler and pressure vessel side. Before that we will make something arrangement. Okay, so it's low cycle fatigue and high cycle fatigue also. We have two types and we will see in upcoming slide. Okay, so low cycle mean high strength fatigue with up to plastic deformations. Okay, so total life is 90% of life can be crack initiation. Before that it will take, but for high cycle profile that's no such informations. Okay, so fatigue total separation of the first fatigue to designed method we have to check. So fatigue life is nothing but before the fracture how much life it going to serve. That means how much attempt without any breakage it was sustained. That is we call S, and stress to number of cycles we are going to measure, and that is called S and curve. Okay, not only with one specimen, we are going to do some more specimen, then only we can check. Fatigue notch factor is nothing but we're going to make the specimen with notch, then we're going to check the fatigue. Same things. Okay. Creep is nothing but a load. We're going to give constant load, prolong a time with some temperature. Okay, the cases like nuclear power plant, if you are developing some materials, they cannot take it easily, so they will go for creep. Okay, because nuclear power plant is going to operate for 24/7. So every time whenever we are making the power generation, heat will be liberated. So the specimen should withstand for 6-7 years. So they will do the creep test for the nuclear plant component. Okay, so they will give some constant load and maintain some temperature. They will leave it. So every time they will take the measurement, how much deformation is take place. So either any dimension changes are happen or not. So we have 1, 2, 3 stages are available. First stage is nothing but beginning stage. Second one is the constant phase. Third one is the breaking phase. Now you see the stress strain curve. Then now you will easily identify. Okay, so first stage is nothing but the plastic or elastic strain. So nothing to worry, it's safe. Second, only steady state. There is no more changes on their structures. Okay, after getting one predefined change. And last one is the third stage where rupture is going to take place. It's severe. We have to monitor every time to check when it's going to get the rupture. Okay. So some of the typical curves for different materials I have taken, and the creep is going to happen inside the turbine blade. I think I have shown to you or some other NIT students that I have shown. So dear students, on some cases I have given. So someone please tell what type of fracture it is, whether it's tensile, fatigue, creep, or any other things. If you want, identify.
So fatigue.
Which one?
So
First one.
Second specimen.
Okay. Second specimen, the blue color background.
Yes, sir.
So what about the first one? Do you know the component?
The crankshaft.
First one, do you know the component?
The crankshaft. Maybe.
Okay. Now you tell me what is the type of fracture? Under which load it was fractured?
Cyclic load most probably.
Okay, cyclic load means which one? Which test?
So it is also fatigue, I think so.
So here see, there is two small things I have shown over here. Intergranular, transgranular. So in the micro level, if you want to see the crack propagation, there is only two types. One is intergranular, where the crack is propagate and flow along the grain boundary. Another one is a transgranular, where it will not bother about the grain structure and other things. It will propagate on its way. Okay, there is only two types. So I strongly believe that today I have finished my lecture. Okay. Now I want to spend some time with you. So yesterday there is 2 idiots have given the request and I have added with them. So I want to see their face. Where are they?